homelessness. Trump has recently came out with a plan that I have not yet watched for how it was that he's going to solve for homelessness. All right? Make sure y'all hit a like for the YouTube algorithm. Let's run up this check, y'all.
Our once great cities have become unlivable, unsanitary nightmares, surrendered to the homeless, the drug addicted, and the violent and dangerously deranged. We're making many suffer for the whims of a deeply unwell few, and they are unwell indeed. The homeless have no right to turn every park and sidewalk into a place for them to squat and do drugs. Americans should not have to step over piles of needles and waste as they walk down a street. Beautiful.
Now, I will say this. You got to love Trump, man. Shout out to Xavier reading Super Chat shortly. You got to love Trump, man. You got to love it. Now, I'm going to give you the C student's perspective from the person on the street. My passion project was homelessness. And the interesting thing about homelessness is most people don't really see the face of homelessness. They experience it. And when I say experience it, you experience it at times when it's least expected or is least conducive for what it is that you're trying to do. So, for example, you may be going out to dinner, you may be downtown, you may be pulling up off of a freeway, and you experience somebody that walk past you or jump in an elevator and they smell like crazy. Or, you know, I walked past a dude over in Vegas and he was just straight up smoking crack right in front of my face. Elliot Jackson, I appreciate you. I'm definitely going to be reading that super chat shortly. But the face of homelessness is not entirely how it's being painted, although he is correct, right? The face of homelessness is often at times you guys. Not saying that you guys are homeless, but I'm saying that there's a majority of people that are one paycheck away or one medical bill or one life event and somebody passing away of really being homeless. I seen a woman and her 3 kids homeless because her man didn't have any kind of life insurance and he wasn't taking care of business because they was living check to check and they was trying to keep up with the Joneses. I seen a guy go homeless because he landed in a hospital. His job didn't save his job for him because they had to continue to operate and he was never able to really recover and get back on his feet because he had fell into a deep, dark depression. I've seen the drug addicted. I've seen whole families inside of the homeless shelter. I've fed whole families, right? The face of homelessness often at times start, not all the time, but often at times start with somebody not truly understanding how money works, not making smart decisions, and then they may work hard, but it then translated into them being on the street as a result of them not having the resources, the support, or the insight and information on how to really be able to maintain a lifestyle, right? And so Trump is right. Every single city that I've went to, including Vegas, Los Angeles, DC, every major city that I've went to, I've seen homeless camps. If you go out to Los Angeles, you see them all across the freeway. You can see them, and I walk down Skid Row, right? People are living out of their cars. Now it's a big thing on YouTube. It's a whole culture around van life, right? They've turned what was supposed to be your ability to be able to get back and forth into a whole lifestyle because most people are trying to understand how to live in their cars. Van life, they call it. People are trying to understand how they can buy old buses and turn them into homes to where they can just drive wherever it is that they want to drive. I see more people investing in mobile home parks. I know somebody that I'm a coach and they give me, they get a lot of insight from me on how it is that they can expand their mobile home park empire, right? But the face of homelessness is more than just what it is that you see on the street. But if you go down Kensington Avenue in Philadelphia, he is absolutely positively correct. All right, let's continue.
Beautiful city, or at least once beautiful city, because they've changed so much over the last 10 years. Our first consideration should be the rights and safety of the hardworking, law-abiding citizens who make our society function. When I'm back in the White House, we will use every tool, lever, and authority to get the homeless off our streets. We want to take care of them, but they have to be off our streets. There is nothing compassionate about letting these individuals live in filth and squalor rather than getting them the help that they need. We need professionals to help them. For a small fraction of what we spend upon Ukraine, we could take care of every homeless veteran in America. Our veterans are being treated horribly. Likewise, with all of the money we will save by ending mass unskilled migration, we will have a huge dividend to address this crisis in our own country. Under my strategy, working with states, we will ban urban camping wherever possible.
He said urban migration. Unskilled urban migration. I don't know what he means by that. Is he talking about immigrants coming over? Unskilled urban migration. I have to assume that he's talking about people coming into this country that does not add value into what it is that we doing in the fabric of America. They're just coming here to seek opportunities. You know where I went to that I was incredibly surprised. I actually went and visited there because my daughter had a Taekwondo tournament there. And we went and visited Minneapolis, Minnesota. And we went over to the Twin Cities, right? And the Twin Cities had a crazy demographic of people in Mixing Bowl. They had a huge Somali population. When you went over to the mall, I think it was like the Mall of America, and we went over in the summer, and the way that Minneapolis is built is pretty crazy because it gets so cold there in the winter that they have it to where you can walk from building to building and all of the buildings are interconnected so that you never have to walk outside when you're going downtown. But they had this crazy Somali population. And I was like, where did all of these people come from? And why did they all move here? And it kind of put me in a mindset of the population that they have over in Dearborn, here in Metro Detroit, right? Because there's a huge population of Arab Americans or Arab people over in Dearborn. It's actually the largest population of Arabs in the United States of America, and they've completely taken over Dearborn. They just like black people. But let's continue.
Violators of these bans will be arrested, but they will be given the option to accept treatment and services if they're willing to be rehabilitated. Many of them don't want that, but we'll give them the option. We will then open up large parcels of inexpensive land, bring in doctors, psychiatrists, social workers, and drug rehab specialists, and create 10 cities where the homeless can be relocated and their problems identified. But we'll open up our cities again, make them livable, and make them beautiful. For those who are just temporarily down on their luck, we will work to help them quickly reintegrate into a normal life. For those who have addictions, substance abuse, and common mental health problems, we will get them into treatment. And for those who are severely mentally ill and deeply disturbed, we will bring them back to mental institutions where they belong.
Hey, Trump he don't cut no words, right? He just be like, yo, for the people that got mental issues, you need to be in a mental institution, and we gonna get you some treatment. If you just over here harassing people and got needles all over the sidewalk, we're gonna arrest you, but we gonna give you the option to do the right thing and get the treatment so we can get you rehabilitated and integrated into society. If you're down on your luck, we're gonna give you some options to be able to take care of that too. You know, I'd be interested because this is only a small clip of him going into a more detailed plan of what this looks like, and more importantly, how we're going to fund it. Because I don't think that you can just fund something by taking money away from what it is that you're spending money on egregiously anyway, such as what it is that we got going on with the Ukraine war. And more importantly, I also am under the impression that this whole war in Ukraine is not entirely based off of, Ukraine defending Russia. I believe that it's multiple different countries weakening and fighting Russia, and the alliance that Russia has through Ukraine, understanding that we don't want it to touch American soil. And then there's another financial component that goes along with it, but neither here nor there. Let's continue.
with the goal of reintegrating them back into society once they are well enough to manage. It's a tough task, a very tough task. What's taken place on the streets, what's taken place with their taking so much drugs. But the fact is, we're going to try. This strategy will be far better and also far less expensive than spending vast sums of taxpayer money to house the homeless in luxury hotels without addressing their underlying issues. And they have so many of these underlying issues and needs.
I agree with that part because a lot of people like to address homelessness by saying, let me tell you a couple different ways that society likes to put a Band-Aid over the whole homelessness issue. What they like to do is they say, we're going to create affordable housing. And for any new development that gets built, we have to allocate a specific percentage of that housing over into people that have lower incomes. And we have to build more housing that is now available to homeless people in Section 8. Well, that does not solve the problem, first and foremost. Secondly, the federal government is not in the real estate business. They're in the business of making money from the taxes that come along with the properties, which then helps to fund your schools and so on and so forth. So if you create an environment in which you're just housing a bunch of homeless people, but you don't attack the true core of why they're homeless in the first place, which is a multi-layered issue, right? You have drugs that's being able to come into the country without any kind of problem. You have allegedly the federal government that is participating in the drug trade. That is then fostering and building a system in which you're incentivizing your community to then hire more police because it is largely funded by the drug trade and the whole idea of civil forfeiture, in which they can take money from drug people or drug dealers or different people that did things illegally, and then they can sell it and then fund what it is that they're doing in the department, which then expands the department and the resources that the police department then has in order to deploy into your communities, such as what's going on in New York, right? They just bought a $750,000, they got a budget $750,000 for their robot dogs, right? But the robot dogs are largely the money that he says that he's using to pay for it. The mayor said that it's coming from civil forfeiture and drug money. So you're using drug money in order to form or build up your war chest that you use in order to continue to police the communities, which is a cyclical issue that we have in the first place because one can't exist without the other. So the core issue of how homelessness, which again, it's an onion, it's multi-layered, and you got to peel back that onion to get to the core issue. You got inflation, you got, a lack of jobs in certain core areas and communities. If you ever want to fix a community, you have to do two things. You have to get really good public transportation. You have to tamp down inflation, which is not the second thing, but that's like 1A or 1B. And the third thing that you have to have is great schools, but the great schools come from being able to fund phenomenal teachers, and teachers are starting to walk away because we live in a society where we're having teachers become overglorified babysitters, and they're not actually teaching the kids anything because there is no real parents at home. And we live in a society where it's become so liberal that these schools are becoming indoctrination camps. So it's just so much, man. It's so much that's to it. That's more than just getting people off the street, mental health services or whatever. You got to have people to have opportunities. They got to see a pathway to success in order to even be able to coach somebody out of a dark space and depression and get them out of that space in the first place. You got to be able to help them to be able to see a long-term vision for their life. A lot of times they have issues with regard to their parenting and their trauma from their background. We pass on generational curses. I'm not running for office. I'm just telling you that it's a multi-layered issue. And my life experiences between A, being able to run up the bag, B, where I was born from, C, coaching people, and then D, volunteering and participating in communities have given me a well-rounded perspective of how it is that you really facing issues inside of your society. And not one thing is going to solve the problem. It has to be a multi-layered, leveled approach to fixing a lot of these issues that we see in society. Can't just throw money at the issue. It's got to be true understanding. That's why the Bible's saying everything that you do, get understanding, because then you'll be able to know exactly how it is that you can solve for and approach a problem. But shout out to Trump, right? Shout out to Trump. And the reason why I'm giving a shout out to Trump is because there is no other politician that's even acknowledging or coming up with any solution as to talk about why we need to solve for homelessness in the first place in the United States of America.